Hello, everyone. Thank you for everyone who is joining us from home tonight. We have a great lineup for you tonight. Before we get started, I just want to clarify that this is the School Year Abroad, or SYA, information session. This will focus on our academic programming. So this will not be about our summer programs. I am happy to refer anyone who's interested about our summer programs to our summer program coordinator. But this program itself will focus on our year-long and semester-long academic programming. So again, we really appreciate your time this evening. I will get started in just a couple moments here. All right. So we are very lucky this evening to be joined by our amazing alumni. And we will start off with some brief introductions. I will start. My name is Maggie Bland. I work in admissions at School Year Abroad. I studied abroad in Spain myself, so I have a personal attachment to our mission, and I'm very, very grateful to be joined by our amazing alumni tonight. So Andrew, if we could start with you for a brief introduction, and then we'll go to Tracy. I don't know if I can hear. Can everyone else hear Andrew? No? Oh, okay. I think the audio cut out for Andrew. We can reset. Let me see if I can mute and unmute you. Tracy, while we're figuring this out, can you go ahead with your intro, please?
Hi guys, I'm Tracy. I studied in France last year. I come from Santa Barbara, California. I go to Kate School, and yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. Ellison, if you could briefly introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Ellison Dolan. I studied in SYA Italy last year, and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I come from Charlotte Latin School.
Awesome. All right, Andrew, let's try it again. I don't know why it's not working. It could be because of the earbuds. So we can maybe problem solve that, and then we can bring everybody back after the admissions presentation, and we can do intros one more time for everybody who's joining. Okay, so thank you all. We will regroup on our introductions after our admissions presentation. So I will go ahead and share my screen. So again, welcome everyone tonight. Thank you so much for coming to our YouTube live session, joined by our amazing alumni of SYA. So we will get going with our admissions presentation, and then I will bring back our alumni for our alumni Q&A. We have received your pre-submitted questions, so we are excited to answer all of those. So that will be kind of the format, and we will have time at the end also for live questions as well. So thank you again for being here. So picture yourself here, traveling throughout your host country, learning the language through conversations with locals, and living with a host family. So our options for our students are a semester option or a full year option. Our semester option is for sophomore spring, junior fall or spring, or senior fall. And then our full year option is for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. With campuses in France, Italy, and Spain, SYA is here to turn your learning journey into one that is focused on hands-on and real-world experiences at one of our 3 campuses.
Every experience you have here will be an adventure. The risks, the rewards, they're all included.
This entire year has just been about things being based on where we are or where we are going with the school next. You learn about something and then you get to experience it. That makes classes a lot more engaging, knowing that we're going to see the things that we're studying.
You really feel the gravity of the things that you learn out of your textbook rather than just hearing about them and memorizing some flashcards. I think it's the difference between memorization and understanding.
It's not just schoolwork, it's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
What SYA does best is make students comfortable being uncomfortable. You really start to embrace the idea of being uncomfortable.
I don't think any other program could really give you this experience. They're willing to throw their students into these situations, trust that we'll be okay. And in the end, we are okay. And I think that we take so much away from it just because SYA is willing to give us that trust and freedom.
So the capstone project is the culminating end of year project for all SYA students that's very much grounded in the fact that we are in Spain, and the goal of the project is to take best advantage of the resources that are around us.
I think that I've been able to get through the surface level of my experience here, not only with the land, but with the people. And I think that the longer that you're here, the deeper beneath the surface you can really get.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying I'm part Italian now. I am part of their family and they love me and I love them. The relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
My friends have been a big part of this experience because I've been able to find a really good group of people who are just as adventurous as I am. I'm very glad I did SYA. It has opened my horizons to travel and being more independent.
I know it can be sort of scary thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country, it flies by so fast and it's so fun. It's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. It's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
For anyone who's on the fence about going to SYA or even applying, the fact that you're even thinking about it probably means that you're somebody who should be here.
All right, so just to recap what you just heard in the video, all of our students live with a personally matched host family as they really immerse themselves in the local culture and feel truly at home while living abroad. SYA students are part of a small student body composed of sophomores, juniors, and seniors from high schools across the United States. So you can see here that all of our campuses have their own SYA campus building, and that's a common question that we get of where am I going to school? Am I going to school with local people? And the answer is you're going to school with about 50 to 60 sophomores, juniors, and seniors from high schools across the United States at the SYA campuses. So these are the campus buildings in each of our 3 locations. We do have a 2-year language requirement for our France and Spain program, or level 2 or above. Our Italy program just requires that you've taken 2 years of a different language, but that does not have to be Italian. So for those of you who may feel intimidated by the language component to our program, I want to assure you that a wide variety of language learners excel at SYA due to our fully immersive program. So you do not need to be super confident or comfortable speaking the language to attend SYA and be very successful. So as part of our fieldwork curriculum, all of our students get outside and into the environment, into their local city regularly. So whether that's interviewing locals for political science, presenting research, studying art museums, studying at art museums, studying art history, our classes challenge our students to get out and about in the local cities and put their learning to the test. And it really encourages our students to take their learning into their own hands. So all of our students only grow more independent at SYA, and part of that is through our school organized trips. So in small groups, our students will travel throughout the host country to smaller cities. And this really is intentional to get our students not only in smaller groups to get to know each other better, but also to really put their language skills to the test. And some of these cities you may recognize, some you may not. And that's, again, really intentional to have our students fully immersed. So as part of our curriculum, we also have a capstone project for both our semester and our year-long students. And this is really an opportunity for students to dive into a subject that is really important to them. And that can be researching fashion in Italy, investigating local farming practices in France, or studying environmental sustainability in Spain. It really runs the gamut for our subject areas, and it really goes to show how many interests our students have when they come to SYA and what they're really excited about to study themselves. So all of our students participate in at least 2 local activities. That can be art classes, cooking classes, continuing a sport, anything like that. And that really helps our students make local connections. All of our campuses also have some sort of local exchange with a high school in the area to further encourage students to make local connections. So our teachers are amazing at SYA. The math and English teachers are American faculty members who are coming. Most of them are coming from schools in the United States, whereas our other teachers are local to the area and definitely to the country, and will teach mostly in the target language. So colleges love SYA. These are the most frequently attended colleges and universities by our SYA graduates in the past 5 years. And we are SAT testing sites. We also have college liaisons on every campus. But the really important part about SYA in colleges is that our students find their voices overseas. They really demonstrate the grit and ambition it takes to live in a new country and learn a new language, and colleges really like seeing that kind of independence and commitment to contributing to a community through our alumni and their applications. We have fantastic financial aid at School Year Abroad. We have over $2 million in financial aid and over 10 scholarships. About half of our families receive financial aid, so we strongly encourage everyone who is considering financial aid to apply. So SYA is a risk worth taking. We really think that it's time to do something different and switch up your high school routine in a beautiful place like Rennes, France, Viterbo, Italy, or Saragossa, Spain. So you do not need to scan this QR code, but please do follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok for our campus reporter content. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and I will welcome back our alumni to the stage. And we will get our introductions going one more time. Andrew, why don't we try again?
Third time's the charm.
Very good.
Mi chiamo Andrew, ho 17 anni e vado a masters e sto studiando sempre. So my name is Andrew, I'm 17, I go to the master's school in New York, and I'm always studying.
Yes, I'm sure it feels like that. All right, Yumi, go ahead.
Hola, me llamo Yumi, soy de Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, y en el año pasado estuve en España con SYA y ahora voy al Hill School. So hi, my name is Yumi. I was in SYA Spain last year, and right now I'm a senior at the Hill School.
Great. Thank you all again, Allison and Tracy, for being here. We're so excited to have all of you, and I know our families are very excited to hear from you. So we are just going to jump right into our panel with our SYA alumni, starting with our favorite classes. So Yumi, if you could tell us a little bit about your favorite class at SYA Spain.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say my favorite class was definitely my art history class, not only because my teacher was probably like one of the most caring people I've ever known. I think the class in general just took really great advantage of the fact that we were in a country with so much history and like beautiful art. So I think it did a really good job of kind of the idea of like experiential learning that SYA really prioritizes. So for example, we would learn about an art style and then we would go to a museum in Madrid and we would see it, or we would learn about like a certain type of architecture and we would walk down the street and we would see it. And so I think that just that combination of having an amazing teacher and also being able to, see the information we were learning so applicable in everything around us, I think it made the class super interesting.
Thank you, Yumi. I totally agree with that. I think we hear from a lot of our alumni that actually seeing what you're studying versus just seeing it in a textbook, seeing it in person just creates that connection that is so valuable and makes our students learn a lot faster, which is amazing. Tracy, how about you? What was your favorite class?
So my favorite class was also art history. I think the French art is like known so worldwide, and our art history course was definitely very place-based. We saw a lot of artworks in person in Paris or just around Rennes. And because a lot of us were very passionate about art history after taking the course, we would often visit the Rennes Art Museum, just a local art museum, and we were able to recognize and even talk about like the artists and the pieces that we see in person, which was really cool. So I definitely learned a lot from that class. And I didn't really have any knowledge of art history before going to France. And now I know so much, and I also saw it in person, which was like so cool.
Yeah. So what you, me, and Tracy were talking about are one of the electives that SYA offers. So all of our students take 6 courses: English, math, 2 language-based courses. One is a little bit more conversational and culture-based. The other is a little bit more grammar-based, and then 2 electives. So art history is one of them, and students can choose from a variety from agroecology and environmental science to art history to economics to film, and lots of options in between. Our course catalog can be found on our website. Okay, Andrew, what was your favorite class?
So my favorite class was also art history, but I'm going to talk about Latin because Latin I had studied for a long time before coming to SYA, but having the opportunity to like go out into Viterbo and like see medieval and ancient Latin inscriptions and have our class work be to translate and read unabridged notes from people like Caesar and Pompey, just like to me is like what SY was all about.
That's awesome. And thank you so much for talking about Latin. I think that's a common question we get for SYA Italy students, is that, oh, I've never taken Italian before, I take Latin. And that's a lot of our students who are interested in the classics, and no better place to take Latin than Italy. So thank you for touching on that as well. Okay, Ellison, could you tell us a little bit about your favorite co-curricular activity, please?
Okay, so I did mainly 2 co-curricular. So one of them was an art class, and it was so much fun. It was like a 25-minute walk outside the walls. And so me and my friend would go walk up there every day and meet Sabrina, the nicest woman around. And we would literally just sit and like let our creative energy flow and just start drawing, because then around us, we were the only high school kids there. Otherwise, they were like max 12 years old, and it was so fun to like have them around, and then them wanting to practice English, and then them being surprised with our Italian, and then it was just so fun to like mingle with like little people. So yeah, I did a lot of art, and then I did volunteering with Centro Aperto, which is at after school we would go to like a elementary or middle school and hang out with the kids there. So like we would help them with English homework, or we would play volleyball or soccer with them, or just puzzles in general. And it was really like, it was so cool to see like the community outside of school.
That's great. And all of our campuses do have an extracurricular coordinator who will, during orientation for all of our students, lay out a bunch of options they have for activities after school. And it's on our students to then follow up on the ones that they're interested in. But those are 2 awesome options. Yumi, can you share a little bit about your activity or activities?
Yeah, so in Spain, I basically did 2 things most of the time. I was in a ceramics class that I would go to twice a week, and I'd never done ceramics before coming to Spain, but I really fell in love with it. The teacher was so caring, and there's so many kids from SYA that also did it, but then there were also a lot of local kids. So it was a really good opportunity to kind of socialize with Spanish kids from the area. And then another thing I did was I took guitar lessons. Another thing I also hadn't done before coming to Spain, but both of these classes were instructed totally in Spanish. So that was like a little intimidating to me at first, but I think the instructors were super caring, super understanding. And by the end, I feel like doing both of those things also helped with my Spanish ability. So really enjoyed both.
It's great. I hear from students who are thinking about applying all the time. I'm so intimidated by the language component. And I use activities often to say it's so different from classroom learning, because you're bonding over an activity, maybe one that you've done before, maybe not, and the stakes are so much lower. So to learn in that environment usually is much more relaxed, a lot more about absorbing the language before producing it, and can seem a lot more fun often to our students, which I'm sure that's very helpful for them to hear. So thank you. On to the subject of food. So Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about one of your favorite foods in France?
Well, I think I loved all the food in France. Like, it was actually everything I had was so good. But my favorite has to be galettes, which is the traditional food in Rennes, the city we were in. It's made out of buckwheat flour, and it's usually, when people think of galettes, it's like the cake, but it's actually a savory food that's shaped like a crepe. And that's like a go-to for my host family and for a lot of host families as well. It's like go-to dinner food. And you could put onions in it, you could put cheese or eggs in it. I had it at least like once or twice a week, and I could never get sick of it.
Amazing. And then Ellison, could you tell us a little bit about your favorite food in Italy?
So like nothing can beat host mom's cooking, but definitely gnocchi. I loved it so much because like you could literally put anything on it. I had like eggplant based gnocchi and it was purple. Craziest thing I ever had, but it was so good. And pesto gnocchi and then gnocchi with marinara sauce and then cacio e pepe. And so there were so many different versions that you could have like put it in, and it was so good every single time. And so that one like that takes the cake.
I don't blame you. Okay, on to our school trips. So Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about one of the trips that you took with our SYA Italy faculty and students?
Yeah, so my favorite trip was in November, and we went up to Torino, up in the north, and for me, it was a city I'd never heard of. It's not small, but I just wasn't well versed in Italian geography, and it just was so spectacularly gorgeous in the fall. And me and my friends spent days just walking around the winding streets and under like the King's Walkway, and we got to have the privilege and opportunity to go see an opera in a really old and storied opera house while we were there, and that just like sealed Torino in as like such a spectacular place because of like how different it was from Rome and yet how it still felt so distinctly beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, Tracy, what about one of your favorite trips?
So my favorite trip was the February one. We went to Paris, and not only because it was Paris, but we saw a lot of untraditional places in Paris, not just the touristy ones. And we also read about a lot of the places beforehand and learned about it in class. For example, like Shakespeare and Co. or the opera. So we had knowledge beforehand and we saw it in person. So that was really cool. And also during the trip, we were given a lot of freedom since it was our second class trip already. And we were already fluent in French, basically, most of us back then. And we were able to navigate the city pretty easily, even figure out the metros and everything. And also it was a time when our class was already pretty close with each other. So we all had a really good time together.
That's great. And I think it's such a sign of progress when you can navigate in the target language. It's really freeing and really exciting, and such a great time of the year when most of our students have been there for a little bit, that you can really explore those skills and put them to the test. So thank you. Yumi, how about you? What was one of your favorite trips?
I would definitely say my favorite school trip was in the spring. My group went to Andalusia, which is kind of the southern part of Spain, and we went to 3 different cities: Sevilla, Cordoba, and Cadiz. And I think I really liked this trip because there was a really good balance between kind of like free time and group guided time. So I really loved how we were able to get time to, explore the cities on our own. But with the school, we also did a lot of really cool, like, cultural immersion activities that I don't think I would have done if I had just gone on vacation with my family. So, for example, we went to a flamenco show. We took a paella cooking class. We did like an exchange program at a local Spanish school. And so just in general, I would say that I came away from that experience with like such a good impression, like wanting to go back. So yeah.
Awesome. It's always great when you can take one of those trips and then say, okay, I'll definitely be back here at some point. I don't know when, but I'll be back here. And I'm glad you had that experience. So now we're on to our second portion of our panel, which is our storytelling portion a little bit. So we are on to one of our most frequently discussed topics, which is our host families. So before I get into that, I just want to say that our students fill out a long form of what they're looking for in a host family, from dietary preferences to siblings and home lifestyle that they're used to and that they're looking for. And then our families do the same. So our host family coordinator on each campus spend the months before our students arrive pairing our students with the family that they think would be the best fit. So in addition to full background checks and home visits for our host families. So it's a very comprehensive process at SYA. And we would love to hear about it, I'm sure. So, Tracy, could you tell us a little bit about your host family and maybe a memory with them, please?
Yes. So my host family, I had a host family of 6 kids and one single host mom. So it's a pretty unique family. It was very different from my own family, which is I just have a sister. So, and my favorite memory with them is probably going to the grandparents' house like every other week. So my host family, my host mom especially, is very into just being close with all of her friends and her family as well. So her parents lived in the same neighborhood that we did, so we would just walk over to their house. It was a really nice house. It was like a 10-minute walk, and we would have a really good meal, like a 3-hour meal, and that's like 6 course that the grandparents would make by themselves, and it was so delicious. Like we would just sit there for 3 hours and just talk and just eat like slowly. And I got close with the grandparents through that as well. And as my French got better, I was able to participate in their conversations as time went on. And that was like a big milestone for me, like participating in conversations, not only just at the everyday dinner table, but with the grandparents as well. So yeah, that was a very special connection to me, and I would look forward to it like every other week.
Oh, that's great. I think a lot of our students are surprised to learn that they really are incorporated into the family, like they are, one of the family members. And that means if your family's going to extended family celebration or dinner with grandparents, that you are definitely going as well. And that can be a really special connection. So I'm so glad that happened for you. Yumi, how about you? What was your host family like?
So I would say that going into SYA, the host family aspect was definitely the aspect that I was most scared of. I was so nervous about that, but then I got to Spain, and I would say that right now my host family is probably my favorite part of my experience overall. They were so amazing. They incorporated me into their family like I was their own child. So I had 2 host parents and 2 older host siblings, and they were just so funny. So I feel like we had so many good memories together. I can't have a favorite one, but I would definitely say that there were just so many small moments that I still like carry with me today. Like, for example, something that was really big in their family was family dinners. So even though everyone was really busy, we would always take time to have family dinners together every night. And sometimes the conversations would go on for so long. And especially when my Spanish started getting better, we could literally talk about anything for hours. We could talk about our favorite Netflix shows, our favorite foods. When the World Cup was going on, that was a really big thing. So I would say that, yeah, just all of the like little small moments I had with them. But I still keep in touch with them today. We're so close now. So definitely my favorite part of my SYA experience.
Oh, that's great. And so great to have that local connection to maybe one day go back and visit and have them be there, and so excited to see you, I'm sure. Okay, so as I mentioned in the presentation, we have regular field work on our campuses. So Ellison and then Andrew, if you could tell us a little bit about your favorite field work at SYA Italy, please.
Okay, so my favorite fieldwork was just going to Rome. Since we're so close to it, there's literally a one-way train to Rome. And so, like, it could have been randomly or, like, scheduled. We would all just take the early train and then go. We would go to the museums, we would go to the ruins, we would go to the Colosseum. We would literally see everything. And it was so much fun because it was just, like, it became so normal to go to Rome for us, which is like super crazy. But it allowed us to see the history of Italy, but then also as time went on, it allowed us to go explore more of it instead of just seeing the big like attractions. We got to go see the little nooks and crannies, and it was really special.
Great. How about you, Andrew?
So similar to Allison, it's really hard for me to pick a favorite because Rome really does feel like a second campus. But if I had to pick one, there was one day where I got to go to the Maxi Museum in Rome, which is one of the premier modern art museums in Italy. And I, had just like I had taken art history for the first time that year. And I had no previous appreciation for modern art. But going to the Maxi and like it was in such an out of the way neighborhood and getting away from the hustle and bustle, like just opened my eyes to the world of modern art completely, and the world of Italian modern art specifically, which has such a depth of classical and Renaissance art to draw on, and to see how that gets to shape like what artists are doing to push the boundaries today was like so special to me.
Great, thank you. So also we have our capstone project, which is our final project that all of our students participate in. So Tracy, could you tell us a little bit about what you focused on for your capstone?
Yeah, so for my capstone, I did it on the local farmers market called Marché de Lys that opens every Saturday in Rennes. And my like guiding question was if tradition lasted, because the market has been up and running for like 400 years. And what I did was I went every Saturday. I met a lot of different people through it. I interviewed some of the merchants. I interviewed a writer that wrote a book on it, and I also met a lot of friends through it. Actually, one of my SYA teachers introduced her friend that goes to the market often to me, so I was able to talk to like a regular and how she like felt about the traditions about the market. So it really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I was able to practice my French in all the type of different ways. I had to call people, I had to interview people, which was very intimidating at first. But after like doing all of that, I realized like how much I've actually learned, like either French or just about the market or just about the French culture in general. So it's definitely a very difficult but interesting project. Like it feels really rewarding at the end.
Absolutely. How about you, Allison? What did you do your capstone project on?
I did my capstone project about fashion in Italy. I'd been interested in fashion before, but like not really. So I kind of took this chance to be like, might as well. And so I did research about all the places that we went, like as a school and for independent travel. I did research on like significant colors, fabrics, and traditional wear of each place. And then I would go and interview people, different shop owners, and just see like and take pictures of all the traditional wear that I might have found. And then after I gathered up all my information, I made a garment to represent what I had collected.
Amazing. And I remember now your pictures in the presentation featured. And great. So let's see. Andrew, could you tell us a little bit about your capstone, please?
Yeah, so there is a great long pilgrimage trail called La Via Francigena, which starts way up in Canterbury, travels all the way through France, all the way down Italy to Santa Maria di Luca, and then you would ideally take a boat to Jerusalem. But particularly, there is 100 kilometers of it between Rome and a town called Montefiascone, which is sort of special. And if you walk those 100 kilometers with a stamp book, collecting stamps at every stop, and you'll end in the Vatican, you will receive a testimonium, which has ancient Latin on it, and it is signed by one of the higher ranking Roman Catholic cardinals. So I decided to undertake this walk. And it took about 6 days of hardship. But you meet like you're walking through farmers' backyards in the middle of like nowhere in Italy, and they just wave to you with a great big smile, "Buongiorno," you know, and you see like so many things that I'm so confident that like no typical American would have ever seen. And at the end, you get the satisfaction of knowing that like this is something that I completed that is really special and monumental. And then I got to recount that story to all my classmates, and it felt like a real triumph.
Incredible. Wow. All amazing examples. Thank you for sharing. So this is second to last question for our panel section, which is about a typical day. So I'm happy to have you kind of chat about a part of your day that was unique to SYA or just a general overview. So Yumi, if you could tell us a little bit about a typical day at SYA Spain, please.
Yeah, so for me, what was really great for me was coming from the suburbs. It was like not a very walkable place, but going to Spain, I was able to take the tranvia to school every day. So that was kind of like the above ground metro that we used to get around in Zaragoza, the city where I was living. So my day would usually start with me taking that to school. And what I really loved about going to school with SYA was it was like a really close-knit community. So every day coming into school, students, teachers, you're always greeted by a friendly face. So that was just always a really great way to start my morning. And then the classes that I took, in addition to like the typical math and English, I also took art and environmental science electives. So those are like the academic side of what my day usually looked like. For lunch, we would go over to the Spanish high school next to our school to eat. So that was also really cool because while we were there, we got to interact with other like Spanish students around us. Throughout the year, we also did a few exchanges with them. So I actually, through that, I was able to make a bunch of Spanish friends who I still keep in touch with. And then my day towards the end after school, I would usually head to my extracurriculars, take the Tranvia guitar class, ceramics class, and then I would head home for dinner with my host family. So yeah,
Host family dinner every night.
Yeah, you know.
Thank you. Andrew, how about you? What about a typical day in Italy?
Yeah, so my host family is one of the three in Italy in my year that lives in a town next door to Viterbo called San Martino. So in the mornings, my host mother would either drive me or I would walk and take the bus into Viterbo and arrive just in time for school. Then we would have a couple classes, go to a local kitchen which served food to us and a university in the area. And then after school, I would go to my favorite cafe, which was a sort of like piano lounge above a public theater. And you could see like the goings on of the town and whatever production they were putting on below through giant glass windows. And there I do my homework with my friends over a nice cappuccino, and then take the bus home for host family dinner. And then after dinner, I had a very, very eager host brother who would always drag me into his room when he wanted to talk about my day, and he always wanted to hang out with me.
Very sweet. How about you, Allison? Anything to add about a typical day in Italy?
I mean, pretty much, it was pretty much that. I'm also one of the families who lived in San Martino, and so, except the other family, the third one, that host mom would also take me to school by car. But I mean, no, that was pretty on point. But for lunch, we would also, if we didn't want to go to La Mensa, the cafeteria, we could go around to like a pizzeria or a spaghetteria or just like go get some bread from the fornaio or something like that instead of having to go to the cafeteria, which was always a nice change. And then, yeah, after school, we would study or like if you had a designated day to shop for necessities, you would do that or just shop in general. And then I would usually just take the bus home at 7:45.
Great. Thank you. And then final question for this portion is what made you eventually apply to SYA? We get a lot of students who are maybe watching this who may be on the fence or deciding whether they should or not. So Tracy, what would you say kind of in the end made you really want to apply to SYA?
I think to start off, I've always been very like passionate and interested in the French culture and language. I studied French for 2 years before going, and that was like my favorite class in school. And I also just wanted to meet new people because I go to a really small school with like 80 people in my grade, and I also stay in a very small town. So I just wanted to just kind of get out there and meet new people around the world or around the US as well. And I guess like the end of it is just I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone, be independent, just have new adventures. And that's exactly what I got, is what I hoped for. So I'm very happy I did SYA. I think I formed some of the most valuable connections, whether that's with my friends or with my host family, that I'm still in touch with today. And I really made some unforgettable memories, whether that's in like trips or just in school with my friends or during classes. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Yumi, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, I think looking back to my freshman year, I would have never imagined that I would be spending my junior year in Spain because it was just something so out there, so outside of my comfort zone. I could never imagine it. But I think at the end of the day, that's why I did it. I think I was really looking for something different, something new, something outside of my comfort zone. And kind of like what Tracy said, I'm so glad I pushed myself because I've always been like very passionate about language learning and culture and all of that. And I think that going to Spain, I was so deeply immersed in that, and it's really changed my perspective, my worldview. I feel like now I'm so much more comfortable putting myself outside of my comfort zone and going out there and talking to new people, and also just like being open to new experiences. And so I think ultimately at the end of the day, I did SYA, and it was super rewarding because it was something that just like pushed me to go out there.
That's great. And I'm sure for folks at home, that's helpful to hear too, because it's hard to have it really sink in or hit you that you're really doing it until you're there. And all of our students who attend SYA say it was still a big challenge. It was a big risk, and I'm so glad I took it. But it's hard to know if you'll ever feel like, okay, I got this, because it is. And we're asking our students to take a really big leap, and we see on the other side just how worth it is. So that's great. So we have received your pre-submitted questions, so we can go through those now. Tracy, I don't know if you wanted to add a little bit about your typical day in SYA France, in addition to what we've heard.
Yes. So our campus was like in the middle of the city in Rennes, but I lived in Saint-Grégoire, which is around like a 20-minute bus. So our classes start at 9. I will get up around 7:45 to 8. I would catch the bus with my friend who also lived in the neighborhood. I was really lucky to have around 5 to 6 classmates that also lived in the town that I lived in. So we would all go catch the bus every morning together. And then during school, we have 6 classes per day. That was like 45 minutes long. We have all of our classes in the same day, but we do have half days on Wednesday and then Thursday field work. For lunch, we would go to the local high school called Lycée Jean Massé, and that's where like an actual local high school of just French kids there, so we can kind of also see how they interact, and we also made friends with some of them as well. I guess to add on to that, like we had a field work where we shadowed the French kids for a whole day, and we just followed them around and see how their life is. So yeah, and then after school, I think school ended around 4:25. Usually me and my friends would go to like a cafe or something to study or just to talk. And then I would take the bus home, and we have dinner around 8 every day. And then I would do homework or call my family. So that's like a typical day.
Thank you. Very helpful. So we get this question a lot too with the difference between a semester and a year. We also got a question about who's eligible for the semester. So if you're going into 10th grade, you can do the spring semester or the full year. 11th grade is fall, spring, or the full year. And 12th grade is the full year or the fall semester. So those are our parameters for our students applying. But I think it's helpful to just hear from our student. We can hear from Andrew about just the difference of maybe a semester versus full year, or maybe something you would tell a student who's considering going for the full year but doesn't want to miss out at home. How would you kind of respond to that, Andrew?
Yeah, so I was a full year, but as soon as I got to SYA, I made my best friend in the whole world, who I still text like every day. And unfortunately, he was only there for the first semester. So we got so close so fast, and it felt like I couldn't imagine life without him. And even as a first semester student, like in Italy at least, you're going to Rome so often, you get, in my opinion, the better of the trips in Torino, which I talked about. And then when he left, over winter break, I was like, the next semester is going to be awful. I don't have my friend. But then the new students came in, and I made like another really good friend who I totally like was someone I never would have expected to be friends with. And then as time went on in the second semester, I was like, wow, I can't imagine how I ever had SYA school without this person. Like, I can't imagine how I lived in the first semester without this friend. So I would say, like, as a semester student, in terms of Italy, you're not missing out on much. But I would still say that financially, if you have the means, I think even if you're a little nervous about it, I think you should take the jump and do the full year, because I know my experience was like I just couldn't get enough. Like in the winter break, you're like, I can't believe I'm halfway through. Like I cannot believe that some people are ending their experience right now. And I would just say, even if you're nervous about it, it will be worth it.
It's great advice. I think we hear from students a lot that that first few months is so integral for learning the language that it isn't until around the 2-3 month mark that you're really starting to produce the language and really take off and see yourself make that progress. So I will also say that from an admission standpoint, most of our students do attend for the full year. We have about 10 to 15 spots on each campus for semester students, and you cannot go for the fall and extend for the spring because of our visa process. So you do have to decide before you apply, but we do have an option on our application for first and second choice. So if you'd like to say, I'm applying for the semester, but I'd be interested in the full year if there's not a spot for me, that's something you can indicate in your application as well. But we've already had a few fall students try to extend for the spring, and we have to say you can't do that. But most of our students do attend for the full year. In terms of the application process, we got a question about that. All of our guidelines are on our website, but from the student's perspective, it's an interview and an essay. There are also teacher recommendations required and a transcript required as well. But it usually is a pretty straightforward process for our students. And our financial aid deadline is also February 9th, which is our application deadline. So both are due on the same day. We have a question here about students. Do students go home for the holidays? Would I be able to visit a family member during a trip to Barcelona? Most of our students do stay with us for the whole time that they're with us. We really recommend that students do stay on campus and with host families. For holidays, our host families are fully prepared to host. We also strongly encourage families to come visit. We find that that's a better transition than our students potentially going home, speaking English a lot, and then coming back. So we do recommend that students stay, but it is an option for the students who want to. And visiting a family member is definitely a possibility, as long as our resident director and the families at home approve the itinerary. But in general, our students keep travel within the country, unless there is an adult chaperoning them to a family member, for example. So we have a question here about how do students safely get around town? Yumi, would you like to talk a little bit about safety and who you could go to if you needed to, the adults that you could rely on?
Yeah, so what I think was really helpful for me coming into Spain was there was kind of like a 2-week orientation period at the beginning of the year where they really, the program I feel like did a really good job of letting us know about all of our different safety resources. So of course, the resident director was always a go-to person for any like safety needs, anything going on. Also the host family coordinator. But also they really like grilled us in the beginning of the year with all the information we need. For example, like if we're ever in an emergency situation, which phone numbers do we call? How do we contact the police? We also had kind of like these cards with our own personal information we could give to someone if we're ever in, like an emergency situation, we need to get in touch with like emergency services. And we also, I think at one point we also had like local police officers come in, let us know about kind of like safety regulations, how to stay safe, navigating the city on our own. So yeah, I think we were definitely really well informed about that going in from the beginning of the program.
Great, thank you so much. We have a question about GPA transferring. So basically for our SYA students, there will be an SYA transcript, and our transcript and grading system goes along with the US grading system. And what we do is we attach, for students applying to colleges and universities, you have 2 transcripts. One's from your homeschool and one's from your from SYA. So you have 2 transcripts. Schools and universities are fully prepared to look at those. And in terms of GPA, it depends on your sending school. So some sending schools will not calculate that into their GPA and some will. So that's a question for your sending school, but a good question. And then we have a question about credits. So for semester or full year, are credits transferable to keep you on track to graduate? Yes, we are a fully accredited U.S. high school, so our credits, we receive students from over 120 sending schools in the United States, so our credits will transfer, but depending on the school, it is up to our students to have conversations with their academic advisors and registrars just to make sure. And our course catalog and information can be found online as well. But we are a fully accredited U.S. high school, so credits do transfer from the schools that we work with. We have a question about, is it possible to apply for the summer and one of the academic programs? And the answer is you can, but it's a separate application. So our students applying for the summer do the summer application, and our students applying for the academic program do a separate one. It's pretty uncommon for students to do both programs just because we need students to be around during the summer for the visa process. But if you would like to give yourself the option, you can apply to both separately. As a current sophomore, can I apply for the fall semester? No. So our sophomores can apply for the full year or the spring semester. And then this is a question about the summer program, but I think it can be applied to all of us, which is what is the level of fluency you will get to when you study with SYA? And I think that that is we have a range where students come in impacts that and kind of their commitment to learning the language. So I don't know if any of you want to talk a little bit about the progress that you made through your time at SYA in the language, or even some of your friends too, just noting how comfortable you became with the language or anything like that.
Yeah, so I'm happy to take this one. So by the end of my experience in May, I had never learned any Italian beforehand. I did maybe a month of Duolingo in the summer, but I came out like, I wouldn't say fully fluent, but I would say like there would be weeks at a time where I would not speak English and didn't feel like I didn't even realize, like you do get to a point where like, you wake up, your dinner, your breakfast, cafes, shops, your friends, it's all in Italian, it's all in whatever language you're learning. So I would say like, if you're committed to really making an effort to use and implement the language, you will see results.
Great. I think that's such a great point, Andrew, about just commitment level. And we provide many opportunities to stay immersed in the target language, make local connections, but it is on our students to make that decision to stay at the host family dinner and try to participate. And all those small decisions make a really big difference. Most of our students do end up taking the AP at the end of their time with us as well. I see this question about traveling in SYA France. Tracy, could you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on sophomore versus junior year in terms of travel?
Yeah, for sure. So I was a junior when I attended SYA France for the year-long program, but I had sophomore friends, so I could speak on that as well. I think for traveling, it's very accessible for all ages, I believe. We can actually get a discount if we're under 25, I believe, to take the trains to go into other cities. So it's definitely not a problem like of your age. And for the maturity and safety, well, I think as long as the people are be careful, because we can only travel in at least 2 people. So people definitely could take care of each other, and it doesn't really matter of your age. And actually, if you're under 18, you can visit a lot of museums and different places for free, especially in Paris. So you could definitely take advantage of that. But yeah, I don't think age is something people have to worry about as a junior or sophomore. There isn't really a difference in traveling.
It's great. And in terms of the college application question, so all of our campuses have a college liaison. They work mostly with our seniors in the fall for completing the application process. And then the juniors have a variety of meetings in the spring to go over their college lists and to communicate about what they're thinking of. And our college liaisons are in touch with the at-home college counselors as well to make sure they're on the same page. That's just something to consider, but we're fully prepared to work with students through the college process. And as I mentioned, we are an SAT testing site at all 3 of our campuses. So that's a great question. Thank you all so much for joining. I do want to wrap up here. And just by thanking our alumni so much, Andrew, Yumi, Allison, and Tracy, you were incredible. And I learned so much from these sessions about your experiences. And so we're so appreciative. To the audience, please do follow us on our social medias, on our Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for our current campus reporters. But thank you so much to our alumni. We really couldn't do this without you. And have a great night, everyone. So thank you so much. Bye, everybody.